We're not going to stop. We are not stopping. So I want people to understand that House Democrats, we are going to be on their asses. Like, that's just the reality.
And what is your message to President Trump in that case?
Same thing. We're going to be on his ass. I mean, I don't really know where we are in this country. Why are we even having this conversation? The United States is falling apart right now. We have a 34-count convicted felon, and there are people that are still shielding him from any type of accountability as it relates to a child sex trafficking ring. It is time to take the blinders off. Like, I don't understand why we are pretending like any of this is normal. And I think that that is the level of frustration that so many people are bringing, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, specifically to the Epstein file situation. Like, I'm not saying that this should be partisan. This should be whoever. I want to be clear about that. This, for the Democrats, this isn't partisanship. This is about right versus wrong.
Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett there, who, let's remember, while she's running for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate to represent Texas, she's also in the thick of the Epstein files drama that is toppling leaders across other nations, including the UK, Norway, France, Sweden, and others, while congressional Republicans here in the U.S. continue to shield powerful and wealthy Americans from accountability in what is already one of the most heinous sex crimes of all time, at a point when most of us have no idea the true scope of that crime. That accountability and justice for those who have been harmed is frankly just one small part of what we're fighting for this midterm election year. It's Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. There's new polling out related to both sides of the Texas Senate race, reported here by Daniel Perot at KBUTV in Austin. Early voting in the primary starts 1 week from today, and a new University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs poll shows Congresswoman Crockett up by 8 points over State Representative James Tallarico among likely Democratic voters. 47% supporting Crockett, 39% supporting Tallarico, 14% supporting other candidates or undecided. Two things to note here. Crockett's lead extends beyond this poll's 4.18% margin of error. That's notable, as recent polling had put this race in a statistical dead heat. Also different from prior pictures, a 9-point Crockett lead among Latino voters, which contrasts with prior polls showing Tallarico leading among that group. Crockett holds a commanding 58% lead among black voters, and at least modest leads over Tallarico in most other key demographic categories except for white voters, where Tallarico leads by 19 points, and respondents with at least a 4-year college degree. Tallarico leads there by 3. No surprise that both are generally well-liked among Democrats in Texas. Favorability ratings of 84% for Crockett and 79% for Tallarico. Again, we're reminded of the unfortunate nature of two high-quality candidates running in the same race. On the Republican side, Ken Paxton has the edge in this poll, a 7-point lead over Senator John Cornyn, 38% to 31%, also outside that margin of error, unless Congresswoman Wesley Hunt sees a major defection of his supporters to one of those other camps. The runoff seems pretty certain at this point for the Republicans. The racial tension that's permeated the Senate race for the Democrats remains a topic of discussion. As Russell Contreras at Axios puts it, Texas Dems have been convulsed by it, which is plenty graphic. The worry at this point becomes the possibility that identity-based friction in the primary could damage the eventual nominee's performance in the general. As we've talked about, analysts suggest the focus on intra-party grievances that's infected the Democratic primary is a reflection not on Texas in particular, but of a broader national struggle between the diverse coalitions that make up the Democratic Party that have proved problematic in recent national elections. Most recently, and notably, the divergence between Black and Latino voters in the final tallies of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in 2024. Most folks will still say that a robust and competitive primary is a good thing, but when grievances over identity are left over for the fall, it's clear there's a line that may have already been crossed in Texas. Michelle Davis at Lone Star Left is always good at unpacking this stuff. She reminds us that bad blood often leads voters to stay home, and says, quote, "When our coalition stays home, Republicans win, even when their policies are wildly unpopular," unquote. One particular pie chart pops out here showing that in 2022, the last midterm election, turnout consisted of 20.3% Republicans, 16.3% Democrats. Note just a 4-point difference there, which is especially wild when you see that well over half of Texans were either registered but didn't show up, or were eligible but did not register. 63% on the sidelines. That's a dying democracy if there ever was one. And the online infighting and the misinformation that fuels that infighting ain't helping. Good advice from Davis here. Quote, if someone is feeding you information that's divisive, personalized, and mean, especially if it makes you hate your neighbor more than you hate the people poisoning our schools, emptying our hospitals, and gutting our wages, that is not analysis, that is manipulation, unquote, and agreed. Nice clean segue from there into the weird trend we've seen from Governor Abbott on down the GOP ranks this election year of this sudden emergency response to an Islamic takeover of Texas. There are certainly sections of our state where that ethnic flavor is more evident than others, notably in the Metroplex suburbs, but a takeover of the state by a religious group that represents less than 2% of our population is stretching it a bit, I'd say. J. David Goodman at the New York Times considers that trotting out the old post-9/11 hating on Muslims thing likely has more to do with fewer border crossers of late, upon whom to direct the xenophobic fear and loathing of the slack-jawed GOP primary base, for whom a righteous Christian war against radical Islam probably sounds like a good time. Governor Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton, as we've talked about, have launched investigations into Muslim real estate developments and branded Muslim advocacy groups like Care as Terror organizations. They're talking about banning Sharia law and outlawing religious clothing. As you might expect amidst all this, reports of harassment and threats against Muslim leaders and everyday Texans are climbing. All of this yet another indicator of the call Texans are being asked to make once again this election season. Are we going to join together and right the ship, or are we going to find somebody who doesn't look or dress or worship like us to blame for our problems? This sorry affair with State Rep Gene Wu of Houston is right along that line as well. Alejandro Serrano at the Texas Tribune reporting here, clearly desperate to distinguish himself in the race to replace Ken Paxton at the AG's office. Donald Trump legal bulldog and Republican candidate Aaron Reitz has attempted to cash in on the highly exaggerated and wildly out-of-context claims circulating in right-wing circles that Rep Wu has called for non-white people to take over the country by suggesting that Wu, who is Asian, lied during his citizenship process as a child and should have his citizenship revoked. A claim that is not only baseless and preposterous, but highly dangerous, as the notion of denaturalizing U.S. citizens is now part of the common parlance of MAGA types running for office, as far as what Rep Wu said in the clip that's being panicked over by frightened, low-information white folks across Texas this week. What he said was, quote, the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning, unquote. Personally, I interpret Rep Wu here as representing everyone who's been trod upon in this state by 30-plus years of statewide Republican dominance. And believe you me, there are plenty of white Texans who have been under those boots, whether they realize it or not. Finally, y'all, a heartbreaking essay from ProPublica that's a must-read for a full understanding of what's happening inside immigrant detention camps across Texas, especially the one at Dilley, just outside of San Antonio. Some might have thought that the release of Liam Ramos from Minneapolis last week was the solution, but that's far from the case. Micah Rosenberg at ProPublica shows in a collection of videos and stories that house of horrors, as we speak, is still full of children. There's a point where bad policy becomes an evil that degrades everyone involved, and in a democracy, that's all of us. That's you and me. See the ProPublica link in the show notes for yet another reason for all of us to organize, prepare, and vote our asses off. Once again, the March primary is almost upon us. Early voting in the primary starts next Tuesday, 1 week from today, February 17th. Fat Tuesday in Progress, Texas will be celebrating both of those occasions next Tuesday with a treat for our monthly supporters. More on that is coming up. See the show notes for a Texas 2026 March primary ballot form from the Texas Tribune that you can use right now with your home address to see who's running in the primary in which you choose to vote. All about voting in Texas at govotexas.org. Houston friends, starting this Friday, our weekly roundtable show In Progress will join the regular schedule on KPFT 90.1 FM, where we'll be on the air at 10 a.m. every Friday morning, in addition to our current slot on Sunday mornings at 11 on KPFT HD2. Huge thanks to our friends at KPFT for the support and the partnership. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared bold progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, Chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now. Huge thanks to Linda Miller, Christina Ayala, and Jessica Ely, all of whom are monthly supporters. Since the new year, Progress Texas has devoted coverage and advocacy to the issues you're passionate about, and like no other outlet, giving you direct access to the candidates in the biggest races in the country: Texas legislative, statewide, and federal elections. Join us as we work to raise $14,000 in the month of February. Whether you give $35, $100, $500, any contribution brings us closer to our goal and ensures Progress Texas can advance our Project 2026 plans, which include Spanish media and further radio expansion. Hit the web store, too, at progresstexas.org to snag the merch to match your values. Humans Against Abbott, Y'all Means All, Rovolution, and more. It's all there at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.